Hi there. All right, well, these stories may bring on a somber mood, but I assure you they are important to share, definitely in hopes to not have them be repeated, right? So, the basis to look at it first off is if you are already an angry person. I mean, do you tend to like fault others for your problems? Or have you been known to be abusive, either with words, or are you even the physical type, that easily pushes someone? Or do you even place hands on people when you're trying, to be hurt? There is plenty of reasonable truth to the message you hear about, just say no to drugs. In fact, I can give you a whole list of reasons why not to. Meanwhile, you can't even list one reason why someone should. Additionally, when you do drugs, it's like lighting a match to your insides, setting fire to your persona specifically, too. The human soul, right? Your spirit and mind. Psychology, the psychoanalysis, all of it is actually a structure that becomes a motive force. Drugs are real, so is the dependency on them and the way it affects your body, too. Your whole life coming down or off the drugs even, or the high as they say, is a whole another event in itself too. You're not thinking straight is my point, and you don't realize that even when you thought you were hiding your use, and the events that take place while using will inevitably come to light. So I have heard that the phases of this goes on for days, and doing as well as no sleeping or stopping if you can help it. Maybe that person feels that they are in an alternate universe when they continue to make that choice and get in those never ending vicious cycles of insanity. People talk about wigging or being whacked out. Meantime, you still are you, right? So is and are the people or the things around you, too. So let's briefly look at and go over to one or two of those moments of coming to the real actuality, reality for a particular young female, even that has already made headlines. First, we have Cheyenne Harris, a 21-year-old mother of both a 20-month-old daughter and a 4-month-old son named Sterling. Her and her boyfriend, sorry, her daughter was named Nyla, or is still. Uh, but her and her boyfriend were charged in the death of their 4-month-old son, Sterling, after he called the police, the father, saying his son is dead, and made a nonchalant statement that he probably just died of SIDS. The baby was found dead in a baby swing in the back room of their apartment. An autopsy found the baby died actually of malnutrition, dehydration, and E. coli, infection caused by being left in a soiled, maggot infested diaper for up to 2 weeks. It's a horrific situation in itself to be addicted to drugs, but to raise a child in that environment, we have to try and imagine what environment this not or this mother, excuse me, created for her children. If we are going to get specific, not general, when she called out to her boyfriend, hey, if you are going to get high, you better include me. A moment, she chose to put herself basically and her boyfriend before and above her toddler and newborn baby. It is okay if you have kids, this young, and you can't afford to put them in daycare or preschool. Um, but is it okay to just go and drop them off at the local meth house in town? That's not negligence, right? That's not abuse of a child. Because when you are doing drugs, 2 weeks will go by before you even realize your baby who was ignored when he had to have cried, while sitting in a hot room, stuck in a swing, staring at a wall, either when he was hungry or burning because the urine was, soaking his red hot diaper rash. You only realize after you find him dead because you're doing dope, doesn't feed and comfort him, nor does it change his diaper. Pretty sure, DCFS should be involved in these types of cases as well as the town's leading prosecutor, right? And that should be the message that we send. It's one thing if you want to smoke dope in itself, that's the decision you're to make. But why are you bringing your babies to and in it as well? Don't they just, get a choice, let alone a life they want to live? You bring children in this world, you better raise them. You better take care of them, break the cycle. Imagine, the trauma the first responders even must have experienced. How in the world can you ever forget an image like that? Horrific. Remember, there are four types of negligence. There's the emotional, the physical, the educational, and the medical. Well, I do declare Cheyenne Harris violated, all four of these for her children. She mixed even her antidepressant medications with methamphetamines. Um, creating a cocktail where she then violated, the rights of her children. And, the 20-month-old, ironically, was kept in a playpen by the parents, but the 4-month-old was in a room by himself. Makes total sense. This is the epitome of what she is now called in jail, which is, quote, a nightmare of a horrible monster, end quote. All everybody's inner, emotions are coming out to play now. Most of the time, by the way, the prosecutors are not required, even in these cases, to prove a motive. But do you know how many inmates, though, say that they would have been a better person, even a better mother or a father, if it weren't for them doing drugs? It doesn't matter, what kind of home you have had. These two had a nice apartment, but similar cases have been found in trailer homes, bodies of infant babies being found even left outside, too. The injuries inflicted on them will still prove to be caused by additional trauma. The tears in the courtroom are even left to be found by these parents. They're just staring, which is a joke, into space. They should have their heads down when facing their crime, especially committed against their own children. Doing drugs alters your mind and changes your awareness. They often say in court, but still speak about that of a body or out of body experience, even. Some of these mothers come back and get into their own bodies and minds. Again, they may even legitimately cry for their child after the drugs have worn off and they begin to see life in the reality of those, grief, some pictures of how their child was found and a medical examiner explaining in great detail the cause of their death. Do you really know what you are doing on both sides of your alternate universe? I ask. Lots of criminals, blame the drugs for the crimes, but that is not a defense. Your real self versus your what, dope self? Serious crimes, all the more, take place in that very environment. The blunt force trauma occurs, it's not by no accident or cover up, but cause the light is shed, soon on how the child is found. the evidence is laid out in the investigation, and then the courts, every time. One judge goes in to explain even how she sees it when the sentencing occurs for those parents, both mothers and fathers, about how you simply created, or they did, excuse me, an environment that caused your children to be put second to the drug and or the manner or person you expect to provide the drugs you put first. I'm sorry, but for you to go around chasing what you choose flies in the face even of what any normal mother or father would do. You chose wrong, another judge says, and for you to try and come with a defense that it is a sickness, but you tried to be a good mother. What was the word again? You did try, and you may say now, even that you love your babies, that problem is that, like most criminals, you have this version even of what a good mama is, that is so far from the norm, even. Ask anyone, that looks at the evidence against you and ask them what they see. Go ahead and ask them, is that what a good mom or dad looks like? While showing them, you don't even care about your newborn or any of your babies. There's even specific that's hurts when if it was said that when Sterling was found, he had only been deceased for less than 24 hours, even. That means that Sterling, who was left alive and rotting with an insect infestation for almost 2 weeks before he ultimately perished. The father testified that he has never changed either of his children's diapers because quote, he has a weak stomach when it comes to smells. I find that odd. He gets to the point of throwing up over a diaper being dirty, but the officers testified even to the undeniable smells, that must have lived with him alongside a rotting infant, that showed themselves capable, even with their substance abuse, to care for their dog and their toddler and each other. However, no defense true for the death of Sterling to be due to their addictions, and Cheyenne may have even been ashamed that she had a baby with someone else. Hence, she didn't post any pictures of Sterling so as much as she did for her toddler Nyla. This internal feeling could have led the parents to neglect their baby and treat him, like he didn't even exist. Other people also, by the way, came over to do drugs even with them in the apartment and didn't even know they had a baby. Or that it was in a room with the door closed. The evidence is overwhelming, and the reality of a short life is awful. The evidence shown in this case, including the medical examiners, reports shows that Sterling died from malnutrition, remember, dehydration, and E. coli infection. He had not been bathed, though, also in over a month, and was found with maggots in his clothing and his diaper with E. coli bacteria, which grew in the baby's diaper, and the feces literally ate through his skin, allowing the feces, in his bloodstream, and causing a severe infection. This is a disgusting example of a parent's neglect and total disregard, even for their child's life. Sterling suffered a slow and painful death due to his parents' negligence. At sentencing, even Cohen's conviction, the father, for first degree murder due to the one homicide rule, it's called. That smile, though, I can't get out of my head, or smirk, they often give in court, both parents, or when they are taking pictures of themselves during the crime. Yeah, that's a normal reaction from someone that is, murdering their little baby. No guilt or shame even after, too often. The thought of Sterling, sitting in his feces for that long is beyond disgusting. I pray already, knowing that Sterling is now in the lap of God for all eternity. Another thing that gets me thinking after, a jury found her and her boyfriend together, too, guilty of first degree murder and child endangerment, resulting in death. First degree murder charges in Iowa, it was where it's at, carry an automatic sentence of life in prison without parole. I want to share with you even the other case, because the one of uh, Kalia McNabb, excuse me, I couldn't get the words out. We both have heard of Christopher McNabb and Courtney Bell, I'm sure. This was a severe, also child abuse case, resulting in an infant found dead at just 2 weeks old, too, mixed with incest as well, this case. Both drug addicted parents that had horrible childhoods themselves, but Christopher, at a very young age, began to commit several crimes, even on a continued basis. His record goes far back as the age of 8 years old, even. His mother describes him as a child from hell. So, could not, in fact, even handle her son, and goes on, these benders he does with his family starting at a young age of battery, trespassing, theft, grand larceny. These two then pairs up, even after finding out they were first cousins, but still chose to reproduce. While they hooked up, he continued his criminal routines and was in and out of jail after Courtney had her first child with him. Then he got out of jail and they hooked up again, and Courtney got pregnant again and had another baby girl with him. Police were called often for even domestic abuse with the two of them and battery. Courtney had not a bruise here and there, but constantly she had bruises from Chris. Clearly, having seen the footage on the case, I saw them on her face, her arms, her legs, her back. It's pretty sad that this 2-year-old obviously saw her mother being beat by what? Her father, who was either, you can call him like her brother's cousin, technically, or her mom's cousin, also her boyfriend, technically, of what must have been, daily occurrence. Meth was pretty much taking over their lives. Just as baby Kalia was born, she was premature but healthy. When she was just 8 days old, her mom and Chris dropped both the kids off at a friend's house that already had 4 kids themselves there and left them for a 4-day bender. The friend felt overwhelmed with so many kids and didn't know when they were coming back after a couple of days for their kids and couldn't get a hold of them. So, other people in the trailer park, including their own parents, the parents, sought out even to both help the kids and, find the parents of the new baby and toddler. When Chris was found, he tried to make a trade for a car to get overtaking his 2 kids, even. They were willing to give the kids back to Courtney if she cleaned up her house because it was, quote, a pigsty. And she did so, and the kids were brought back to mom. Baby was only 4 days old at this point. But then the police were called by Courtney. She reports her 2-year-old saying gone, and by this point, the child was 2 weeks old, the new infant. It was said to be missing now after she just had gotten them back while she was sleeping, that the boyfriend was gone looking for her in the woods. He came back all wet and dirty when the police arrived. He was loud and clear, showing even involvement. of her disappearance, both and the baby's tragic death. Both parents are arrested and charged with the murder. Courtney, in jail, sober, puts on a few pounds and is looking at her actions and the crime, while Chris remains defiant, claims he is innocent, but also gets more tattoos to his face, one even of Kalia's name across his face, which I find to be interesting because now when he looks in the mirror, he will always think of her and this crime he committed towards her, for the rest of his life. I find it so sad that even those, images of her crushed 2 week old soul, that he has the whole self preservation thing, though, still down. He was so outrageous in court that the judge let his sentence, or him sentence himself, to life in prison. The judge said to Courtney, though, that good mothers don't put their baby in a room with a rattlesnake. However, unbelievable as it may, Courtney's conviction for second degree murder actually was overturned later. It is said that although they were convicted of and sentenced together, that she should have had her own trial because there was no evidence of her killing her baby, though plenty evidence that she was in love with a violent man and needed treatment even for depression and PTSD, as well as domestic violence and methamphetamines. I don't know if it means she comes home soon because of the violent death of her baby did occur, but she is far more likely to get parole at some point. We, as the public, have to just wait and see. I guess if she is aiming to stay clean and out of trouble while in prison, time will tell if she wants rehabilitation for herself and her, living young child that was only 2 years old at the time of the crime. Her fate now is being reviewed actually by the appellate and Supreme Court of Georgia. She is still serving time for the child cruelty charge and contributing even to the dependency of a minor they gave her, which in the state of Georgia, it is given for someone knowingly and intentionally, either one that encourages, causes, or aids a minor or involving in committing a delinquent act, or when they intentionally fail to act in a way that would prevent the minor from becoming a dependent child of the court. Also, leaving minors, though unsupervised, falls under that. And the punishment has such a far range. It depends on the case and the crime. It can be as little, it says, as a year or as much as 20 years. One more thing. I love tattoos, don't get me wrong. They can be so sexy if they are done well, but face up or lace up, as they say. Let me know in the comments what you think about dirt bags that say and do this, because I'm talking about the ones who do these vicious crimes of murder and get these huge tattoos all over their body and even across their face simultaneously. It was made popular actually by the rapper Machine Gun Kelly. So they are idolizing a rapper, the one that dates Megan Fox. If you look in the Urban Dictionary, the meaning is to get ready and keep on going through the struggles of life. But what they are doing is making others struggle in life and taking another life. So you will have to forgive me for not sticking up for that kind of life. I'm going to try, to try to remember, but and even put links up discussing a case like this. You're welcome to look at if interested. I will put a link in the description box, even, excuse me, below. And I want your comments too, because they do matter, as do you. Also, Cheyenne did something off after sentencing and in prison that you would be interested in hearing about. She made a complaint, even about being bullied by other females. Um, or was that about that she didn't like when another woman, probably a mother herself, that reminded her she killed her baby, was put then in segregation after responding to the woman about the life she took from her son by, quote, beating the shit out of her. Yeah, that is her being bullied. She has a real attitude. I was trying real hard, to look for clues actually throughout this case, trying to, find out if she felt some real remorse, but came across this. So it remains to be seen in the light, that spirit of hers. Cheyenne, is in prison and gets into all these altercations with others frequently. Everyone knows what her crimes are, and child abuse is considered the worst type of crime in the eyes of other inmates. Cheyenne has even been interviewed after being locked up. That doesn't help, but about their time in prison and about their interaction. She has with inmates, often other women. She says she can't even remember how long it was that it was left her son in that room. She said there was probably several days before she had gone there. She asks, or had made a comment about, you know, this is going to be real fun, even when being interviewed about her lengthy stay she's going to have to look forward to. So, this case, though, trying to find out, more about her and her spirit, unfortunately, I was disappointed. Lastly, I want to say I am stunned with the things found in those jailhouses. I'm still learning, new ways and things they are so focused on. Doing time is about how you choose to do your time. The newest craze, even, is, at least to me, the girls are making dildos out of hot dogs and even oatmeal. I'm like, really? I don't even know if I want to see the recipe on how to make that. I want to hear your opinion on having sex in jail, because it's not a crime, obviously, on the street to have sex in general between two consenting adults. However, these are, remember, convicted criminals we are talking about, that are all supposed to be, focusing on their sentencing and punishment, even, rehabilitation, excuse me, yet decide they would rather get caught breaking the rules for a quick fix or a quickie, right? Even that doesn't fall along, though, to me, on those lines, as they get the wrong kind of attention and even more trouble. Father God reminds me that it is another case of themselves. Remember, he was saying that they only continue to think about, acting like the rules don't apply once again. They even want to make a game out of it for all kinds of attention from other inmates who are also criminals, but it doesn't stop them for even going after the guards and the officers in the jail, too. Sounds like Russian roulette. I don't feel or see, repentance or, sorrow or remorse for the crime there. But who else wants to play? They're asking. Seems they have too much time on their hands and still lack focus on who and what is most important on any given day of theirs, right? All right, guys, that's all for today. Hopes this helps. Talk to you soon, okay? Bye.